might get a little bit of cat sound effects, but we'll see how it goes.
We love cats in this family. Okay, so the way that we've done the other episodes is when someone new comes on, we have three intro questions. So this is Christy. She lives in New York.
Hi
So
there.
here are your three. These are the things that you're gonna tell me and tell us about yourself because everybody
Okay.
already knows me because I think this is like our sixth episode. But this is Christy's first episode. So you're gonna tell me when you started watching Supernatural, how you knew that you were a Sam fan, and what was your entrance to the Supernatural fandom like? So we can kind of walk through
Okay.
that.
So I'm going to kind of do this in reverse order because I was introduced to Supernatural through you.
Yeah.
So we started talking, it would have been what, like 2013.
Yeah. We trauma
Because,
bonded in a different fandom.
yeah, we bonded over Darren Criss and his tour. I
Yeah.
remember that message, like being in Toronto and getting that message from you. Um, so we just kind of started talking from there, right?
Yeah.
And
Christy got a selfie or like an actual photo with him.
yeah,
And I was like, I am jealous. This is my dream.
and talking about how he knew Doctor Who and all of that. Um, so I think we started following each other on Tumblr, and most of your blog was supernatural.
Yep.
And I considered myself like fandom adjacent at that point. I saw all the stuff, but oh my God, this is what, like 7, 8 seasons in right now. I'm not going to deal with this. And then fall rolls around, and it must have been like my first year of grad school or something. And I needed something that was not that. And I had been talking to you, and finally one evening I just admitted defeat. Like, fine, I'm gonna start it.
You're already surrounded by it
Right,
online.
right. I feel like I'm kind of, primed to not just watch the show, but like Sam, because I was talking to you and I think I had started interacting with some of the other Sam girls.
Hmm.
So I was kind of, already prepared to come in and adore him. I
Yeah.
didn't really have a choice.
We just knew that you belonged here with us.
Yeah.
So once you got caught up in everything and you were able to kind of enter the fandom, what was that like for
Uh,
you?
it was interesting because I feel like we had our really good little corner of the fandom. We were the bitter Sam girls.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like I just jumped right in the deep end
Yeah.
because I had only been following you and the other Sam girls. So I did not know what the wider fandom was going to be like until that first live blog, probably for season 9.
Yeah, it was season 9, I think, when we all got current kind of around the same time. I think
Which
Elle
would,
was in 8, but the rest of us were in
yeah.
9.
But that was a brutal introduction, right? That is not the kind of Sam season. So I'm, doing my thing, my bitter blogging,
Mhm.
and people are not thrilled with some of the opinions. So I learned very quickly how to tag so I wasn't showing up in like the overall post because people got grumpy.
Heated.
Yes. Yeah, so it was like right into the fire from,
Yeah.
okay, this is easy. I like this. Everybody gets along to no, your opinion is bad and wrong, and also your favorite character is bad and wrong.
Yeah. That was the shock that I had. We talked about that every one of us entered like happy giant grin, and then we were like, what? What's that?
Why
So
does not everybody agree with me?
it was so, and I feel like the fandom at large, like in the real world, is different than the people online. But it's
Yeah,
like, how do you run into those people? I don't know. So that's where we had our fandom time.
yeah.
Okay, so we are gonna recap and discuss Asylum. which is episode 10, and Scarecrow, which is episode 11. I'm so excited about both of these. So, what we've done in the past, Christy, just to give you an idea of the structure of this part. So, I'll recap the episode really briefly, and then we can just discuss whatever we want to about it, and then we'll rate it on we'll discuss like the wardrobe just for fun, and then we'll rate it on our Sam friendly scale.
Okay,
And then we'll talk about the second one.
perfect.
Cool. Asylum. Here's the synopsis for Asylum. I get really excited about big haunted asylums. It's always my favorite type of horror movie setting. I love a documentary about an old abandoned asylum. If I'm watching a ghost hunt, that's where I want it to be. So I really want to like this episode. um, it is definitely one of those where they have one of the boys under the influence so that we can learn a little bit more about their inner thoughts, and it's also painful. So the beginning, we've got people like creeping into the asylum to see if they can like find the ghosts, and then we see them in the cold open like getting attacked, or what like it seems to be attacked by the ghosts. And then it flashes to Sam and Dean. I think the boys are at odds at the beginning, or are they arguing about like where's dad? Like I'm so sick of like following these things. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, I have down that they were arguing because, again, it's like dad's just texting them, here's a job, go figure it out.
That's right. So they get a text. That's what it was. They get a text in this episode and it's coordinates. And so
Mhm.
they go to the asylum. So they I know that Sam at one point goes to fake therapy, which is fun. And then they learn about this like horrible doctor who used to work there. And he was doing like these weird rage experiments on his patients. So when they get to the asylum and there's a couple there going on like a haunted date, I guess, and they get split up, they realize that the ghosts are trying to communicate, not hurt them. And in the end, they eventually defeat the doctor who was actually the bad guy, and they salt and burn his bones. In the meanwhile, at some point, Sam gets kind of possessed by the rage experiment energy from the doctor, and so he says some like really mean things to Dean or whatever. And they kind of leave the episode with Dean being like, I don't want to talk about it, and just kind of moving on. So that's kind of it. It's a very regular Monster of the Week episode, but we do get a little bit more about the boys like dynamic, unfortunately, through this kind of like terrible means. So let's get into thoughts. Did you write? Are you a note taker? Like, what's your style?
I have notes. Not a ton, but I have notes.
Okay, let's get into that.
I said this when I was kind of like going through how I was going to do my notes. The lighting in this episode is miserable. Especially that opening scene.
Yeah,
The first like real note that I have is so I think we open with the two cops that are going into the asylum to investigate people breaking in.
that's right.
And you can tell that this is like an early aughts episode as opposed to current day.
Mm-hmm.
As oh my God, there's something wrong with the asylum because a cop went and did something violent after.
Mm-hmm. We're like, that's just normal here. Like, we
Right.
know that's just normal now.
The cop like shot his wife and then himself. Back then, that was a thing. That was, you
Yeah,
know, out of place. Nowadays, it'd be like, oh, that's that's whatever.
right. Statistically speaking, that makes sense.
But other than that, like I love the early seasons rebellious Sam. And I
Me
think we
too.
a lot of that in these episodes. He's so earnest in his like anger about it that I love it.
Yes.
Like that's a good dichotomy that we really get in those early episodes in the early seasons that I think we missed later on.
We absolutely do. I think one of the first things that we see them do is like Sam is rightfully pissed at John. He points out that even Dean agrees that he should have been there in Lawrence. He should have been at the house when they were home. And, he could be dead for all they know. And, Dean's like, don't say that. But Sam rightfully kind of points out, okay, what are the alternatives? He's hiding, he's busy. Like, what's going on? And I just feel like there's a lot that Sam is openly able to express early on that we don't get to see him express as the series evolves.
Yeah, I know we complained a lot in later seasons about how he kind of just fell in line with this, hunting as a lifestyle mentality.
Yeah.
So early episodes are so refreshing because he is very um, openly against it because we got a text from dad. Like, we don't have to do that.
Yes, he keeps saying that. Like, I don't know why you don't question this man. Like, I don't understand why you don't like have any kinds of misgivings, Dean, about this. Like, I think they end up getting to the coordinates and it's where the asylum is. And I made a note that when they jump over a fence and we get the famous Jensen was a cheerleader jump over the fence. And um Sam wants to talk about how like John is not present.
Yeah.
He's like, are we gonna talk about how dad's not here? Like we got there and we thought he would be here and maybe
Ask.
get
Yeah.
some answers, right? And Sam says, like, it doesn't matter that John wants them here. Like, it doesn't matter that he told us to be here. Like, we can make our own decisions. And Dean makes a joke that that's the attitude, that's the same attitude that gets me the extra cookie all the time. And because, Sam doesn't fall in line and Dean does. And while it is a joke, he claims not to have noticed how different Sam's like upbringing was. But like at the same time, like he did understand that it gained him points with John. And when Sam says, like, well, we deserve answers, this is our family. And Dean's answer is, well, he gave us an order.
That I
I,
wrote that part down. He gave us an order. You hear
mm-hmm.
over and over again in this season. And it's just so characteristic of Dean, but he's so unquestioning of it.
Sam says, so we always just have to follow dad's orders. And Dean says, of course we do. Like it never occurred to him that you don't have to, A, and B, that you could choose to do the complete opposite. And so they end up at fake therapy because they're trying to get like some background on this. And Sam is not great at pretending to be in therapy.
He's so terrible at it. Like, there's a scene earlier where he's trying to be, I don't know, trustworthy to the cop, and he throws Dean out pretending to be the journalist.
Yes.
And it's still kind of like, how did anyone buy this? He's so precious in these episodes because he's just so not an actor.
He's so sweet and he seems so sweet. Well, I really liked that they used to do, and we talked about this in other episodes, but they used to be so creative in how they would present themselves because they get into this habit later where they're like, we're FBI agents, now we're hunters, and that's like it. And so I liked seeing like Dean being like, hey, I'm a journalist, and like having a script with Sam where Sam's like endearing himself to this police officer by seeming to stick up for him. That was really cool to see too.
Yeah, now that you point it out, like I miss those in the later episodes. They fall into such a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this just seems, I don't want to say goofier, but definitely, more interesting to watch on an episode by episode basis.
It makes the world feel more like lived in and like more dynamic.
More believable, even. Um,
Yeah, they're not FBI agents all the time. That's not always going to work, but that was their go-to.
I loved the Sam therapy scene. I don't know if I'm glad that we didn't see more of it or not, because I think we joked in later seasons, like, this guy needs therapy. I feel so bad for him. And here it is, episode 10, and he actually accidentally gets therapy. but we don't get to see what all happens in it.
Yeah.
I feel like I had written down like the therapist calls him out, psychiatrist
Yeah.
calls him out on the fact that he keeps wanting to avoid this topic of Dean and the topic of the road trip. This one psychiatrist totally reads him 10 episodes in, and then we don't get the payoff for it.
Yeah. It's like the writers wanted to avoid that too. They're going to give it to us in like more painful like bursts throughout. And I think that because this episode there's not a lot that happens that is meaty. I mean, it's a monster of the week, like it's there's not a lot to it, that it's kind of formulaic. But I think I wrote down that Sam and Dean are going to be mean to each other. And the doctor makes people angry, and to get their fury out, they end up rioting, and that's like the whole thing. And so like I said, isn't this the one, also the one where they never clear up what they meant, like what they really meant. So I
Yeah.
went into this like getting really nervous, thinking like, oh, they're gonna say mean things, and then they're gonna move forward with like out clarification.
Yeah, and then kind of at the end of the episode, we do get that brush off. I feel like it's kind of cathartic for Sam.
Yeah.
Maybe not, maybe not the right way to, get the feelings expressed, but, he does, I think, say a lot of what we as Sam girls were feeling. And
Yes. In a
really,
mean way.
it's not kind, but
Right.
he kind of gets it out there. And then Dean brushed him off at the end, like, no, we're never going to talk about this.
Yeah. I think some of the things, so Sam ends up getting, I want to say possessed, but like really it's more so that like, so they get split up at one point, and then someone calls Sam on Dean on Sam, like on Sam's number or something. And
Right.
it's like, hey, I'm in the basement. And so Dean goes down, and then the kids upstairs run into Sam, and they're like, hey, Dean went to find you in the basement. And Sam's like, what? That's not me. And so Dean's down there with, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. A possessed version of Sam or something.
Yep.
And he is just full of the rage that the doctor is putting in him, but like they don't, it's just rage that like brings, I guess, things you're mad about to the surface. And so he starts saying mean things, and Dean is like, okay, this isn't you. You don't mean this. And Sam says, no, I am, I'm myself. I'm just telling you the truth for once. He calls Dean a brave little soldier, and that he's pathetic, and that Sam says that I have my own mind and you're just a follower, like you have no mind of your own, basically just like really really mean stuff. Sorry, my family's been texting me like all day about the Mavericks. Okay. We're in the playoffs, y'all. Okay. So he says all these kind of really mean things, and he pulls a gun on Dean, and he actually shoots Dean, but it's with rock salt. and
Yep.
and he also does this thing where he references Kill Bill, because Kill Bill they also shoot her with rock salt, and immediately after says like a line that's like, it hurts really bad, it won't kill you but it'll hurt really bad. And they do the same thing in this episode, and I was like, nah, I know what you're doing. And so he keeps kind of taunting Dean, and he goes, okay, cool, here, have a real gun, then you won't shoot me with a real gun. And he like, Sam pulls it and puts it like close to his face, and Dean goes, you hate me that much? You think you could kill your own brother? Go ahead. And Sam pulls the trigger,
Right.
and it doesn't go off. And then Dean kind of punches him, and then Sucker punches him to knock him out, which I honestly don't blame him, because he literally just showed he was willing to kill Dean. And I was like, I can't imagine what that feels like as Dean, like to watch that happen. Like your own brother says those things and then actually pulls the trigger, even knowing he is possessed.
Right. It's kind of interesting to watch it from the lens of like a Sam girl because,
Yeah.
as we kind of said before, you don't necessarily disagree with the heart of what Sam is saying, but the outcome is so grody. Like it's such like a bad outcome that you really have to like preface whatever you're saying about the scene. Like maybe what he was saying wasn't kind, but it wasn't necessarily wrong. But the
It's not untrue.
like, I don't disagree with them.
Right. I know. And I think that was something that we've discussed throughout the last few episodes is like the worldview of the two boys being so different, and how if Dean were to give in at all to Sam's worldview, that like, no, there are other options in the hunt, there are other types of lifestyles, that Dean's entire worldview like crumbles. And so he doesn't allow himself a lot of room to think in terms like that, especially at the beginning, and that eventually it will turn into resentment for Sam, and then and it will resignation um on Sam's part towards Dean. But in this first moment, I think this is the first moment in the series that we see this type of vitriol thrown at one of the other brothers under the influence of something else, and it's not really dealt with. And I think that's why it's so it leaves me very uneasy. So Sam is knocked out. Dean deals with the ghost. He like finds this old man like carcass like in a cabinet, which you can't tell me that people have been going in and out of that asylum like graffitiing it and like playing around like ghost hunts down there, and no one's ever found this guy like body, but fine. So it's there. He salts and burns it, and like just as a Sam girl, of course I clocked this in the background. It's just Sam's ass like in the back corner as Dean is like who dealing with it, like Sam's just knocked out, ass up.
Yeah.
So in the end, Sam apologizes for what he said. And we know he's very sincere. He's very genuine. And like, of course he is. Like he says, I never meant any of it. He insists that he didn't. But Dean kind of raises his eyebrows.
You can tell that he's doubtful about it.
Yeah. And Sam is like, no, no, really, I did not mean it. And Dean's like, okay, I don't want to talk about it. Let's go. And so they leave. And I feel like that is maybe that is the beginning of the resentment that builds between the two boys, where there's a part of Dean that really, really believes that Sam meant it, even if it's not a conscious part of him. I could understand why he wouldn't be able to let that kind of thing go all the way. Cause like, how do you know if it's in there? Like, where did the ghost get it? You know what I mean? Like, it would be really difficult for me to really suss out like what is the truth.
Right.
And so they go home, and or they go to the hotel. Cell phone rings in the morning, and we're looking at Sam in the mythical, legendary purple dog shirt
I
as
wrote
he's.
down in all caps. I know.
I was trying to explain to Corey the purple dog shirt because inexplicably, if you are a viewer who's never paid very close attention to what they're wearing, or like it's not a thing that you're interested in. I don't know why it's a thing we're interested in. We just are. But there is this purple dog shirt, and it's literally just purple, and there's like a weird greyhound drawn on it, and there's nothing else. We don't know what it's about or for. Did he like greyhounds? Is it a team of some sort? We don't know. And Corey was like, I don't understand it. Why are you so excited? And I was saying how I was gonna like write in my notes and talk to you guys about it because I know how much the whole Sam chat loves it. And I said, I don't know. That's the allure of the purple dog shirt. Nobody knows what it's about.
I feel like it's the purple dog shirt and the rusty bacon shirt, with spoilers ahead of time. Those are like the two iconic outfits that we as Sam girls kind of latched onto, pro or against, right? Though I think the fandom is all pretty agreed on the purple dog shirt. I don't think anyone dislikes that one.
Yeah, I think we're all pro purple dog shirt, and then we're split on the rusty bacon shirt, which you guys will talk about when we get there. And sorry, it makes no sense, but alas. So Sam is in his little purple dog shirt, and he's trying to get Dean to answer the phone, and he finally just reaches for it and answers it, and it's Dad. And then the show episode ends. That's kind of all we get from it. It's not great, it's not terrible, but let's discuss it in terms of the scale. So we
Okay.
we start with the wardrobe first of all. So we have four adjectives for each episode's wardrobe. We got horrendous, adorable, genuinely good, or terrible but great. So where did you fall on this?
Oh, like I had such a hard time with this one because most of the outfits were just kind of eh.
Yeah,
You know, generic like button down and the Carhartt jacket, which I love that jacket, but
yeah.
it's in like every scene. So I would have given this a solid eh,
Eh, it's
but
okay.
dog shirt, I think, kind of bumped it up to adorable.
Me
You,
too. Same.
you have to give it, that credit.
Mm-hmm.
So good that it makes all of the other outfits tolerable.
Yeah, I got so excited when I saw that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this genuinely good because before I was just like, eh. Anytime I do a little shrug for a wardrobe, I just land on adorable because like it's an even like season one Sam kind of situation
Yeah,
for me. But okay, so let's look at the Sam Girl friendly scale. On a scale from 1 to 5, we've got screen time, Sam Girl enjoyment, and then just heart eyes. So let's start with screen time. What did you think? What would you rate from 1 to 5 for screen time for their
this
Asylum?
hard because it was just like kind of like the outfit. It was such an episode. Like we had some really good scenes, but then we had like them split up for part of it, and we had some scenes where we just kind of, clunky. So I gave it a solid 3 because it was fine.
Yeah, that's fair. I did a 3.8 because I was like, I'm not trying to give it like a 3. Like, I'm not trying to give it like a low 3, but I'm not going to try to give it like a 4. But like, I found a middle ground. I give it like a 3.8.
That's totally fair.
All right. What about enjoyment?
Again, it was kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I really loved, the purple dog shirt, the therapy scene, and all of that, but otherwise it was kind of a brutal Sam episode,
You're
right?
so right. Yeah, I agree.
Um, so this is another one that I just gave it right in the middle with a 3.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 too. I was just like,
See, this is why my students don't like me grading stuff. Eh, it's an eh.
grade. All right. Last one is heart eyes.
This one was kind of a bummer. I don't know what your opinion of it was, but like we really didn't get a lot to go off of.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually gave it a 2.
Brutal. No, that's fine. I gave it a 3.8 only because I was gonna give it a 3, but then the purple dog shirt came and I was like, at any time I like
That was a
gasp.
2.
All
But
right. So I scored it overall average 3.5. You gave it a 2.6.
yeah, I gave it a 2.67.
Scarecrow is fun.
Yes.
The synopsis for Scarecrow is essentially we start right back in the middle of the phone call. John is on the phone with Sam. He's like, "Hey, I literally have nothing I can say to you that's worth anything because I'm the worst." And he's like, "Just telling you guys that I can't tell you anything and that I can't come see you. Anyways, go do this." And Sam kind of argues, but then Dean takes the phone and he's like, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." And so he goes and does that. He's like, "We're going to do what he says." Sam wants to go find John and help track the thing down that came after Marion and Jess, which is what he believes John is up to. And John kind of hints at. Dean is like, "No, we're going to go do dad's orders." Eventually, the I would say this is the primary storyline is what I was just saying. The secondary storyline is what the scarecrow is actually about, which is there's a scarecrow, he kills people in an orchard. It's scary. He kind of reminds me of Jeepers Creepers. Then when the boys kind of start working on the case, Sam is so restless with this. He is like, "I need to get out of here." And they kind of argue. They have this moment where like Sam gets out of the car and he's like, "I'm out of here." And Dean and him have a fight and Sam's like, "I'm going to go to the bus station." Dean's like, "Whatever, fine." And they leave. And so this is the first time the boys have ever been split up on a case, like, and have like parallel storylines that are not together since we started the series. Sam ends up getting like hitching a ride and running into a girl named Meg, which I was excited about because she's a major character we'll get to know.
Yeah.
And then Dean goes and he keeps interviewing like old people. He realizes that the Scarecrow is a Norse god of fertility, and they're basically sacrificing a couple like every few years to this god to keep the orchard going, which is psychotic but kind of interesting. Um, so as they're doing these parallel stories, not primary stories, but parallel stories, we've got a phone call between the boys, and Dean kind of apologizes for what he said. And then it kind of gets Sam thinking, like, maybe I should go help my brother. And so he ends up coming back right in the nick of time because Dean almost had been killed by the Scarecrow, which in the Hookman, I got confused. I thought I was watching Scarecrow, and I felt stupid at the end because I was like, no, there's a Hookman. What am I thinking? Well, the Scarecrow has a hook that he's holding. So I
Right.
feel like that's not my fault.
I even wrote down that I literally did not remember the difference between this and Hookman going in. Like I
Yeah.
could not tell you what Hookman was about. I thought they were the same thing.
Well, and I just remember really enjoying Scarecrow. And
Mhm.
when I watched Hookman, I hated it this time. I was like, this one sucks. What was I thinking? And then at the end, I was like, oh, this isn't the same episode. So, anyways, at the end, the boys are like back together. And, they're like, if we're gonna do this, at least we have each other, whatever. It's really cute. And then they drive off, and the episode ends. They flash back to where Meg is, who you think is a passing character. No, someone is not important. And instead, she she performs this demon magic ritual so that she can like confer with whoever she's working for. And you realize that she is actually a plant and that she has been watching the Winchesters and specifically Sam. And so like you're like, ah! And so that was a really big moment, I think, for like the myth arc. And that's it. That's Scarecrow.
I think I even wrote down, I was so excited. This is really our first discussion about like demons, right? Do we get them much before this?
Yeah. So Phantom Traveler, which I think was like the third episode, is about a demon, but that one is like the first time the boys, they don't even recognize a demon
Mhm.
by the eyes. Like it takes them a while to even recognize a demon, and then they don't really know what to do until they look through dad's stuff. So it's definitely, this is still new for them for sure
Right.
with Meg.
And it's still new to us. Like demons become so old hat by
Yep.
like even season 5 or 6
Mm-hmm.
that a new one popping up means nothing. But this is this is exciting, not
Yes.
just because it's Meg, but because this is like our one of our first real glimpses of something demonic.
Yes. And I think one of the things that John even says at the beginning, I think, is it's a demon. It's a demon
Yes.
that he's after. And so I guess this is a good way to bring us into the lore where it's like, oh, the thing that came after Mom and Jess is a demon. Now we're watching this other demon kind of like be placed nearby to keep tabs on the Winchesters. So then you're like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah, that's like your maybe your first indication that there is some bigger plot surrounding them than just, finding whatever killed Mom and Jess. It's they're still circling.
Yeah, it's like a network. It's bigger than that, and John even says that it's bigger than you guys can think. I thought the the phone call is really frustrating to me. I said, "Why are you even calling?" Because he says, it's a demon. I'm on its trail. He knows what happened to Jess. He's so sorry. Well, you could have called 7 months ago when it happened, but thanks, Dad. He says,
Or not just dump all of this on them and then I giving you an order that has nothing to do with that. Have fun.
right. And then just dip, like, peace. He, he says, like, I would have done anything to protect you from that, Sam. Would you have? Because allegedly you've been watching over him. So, like what was what? Maybe you could have, I don't know, given them information about it so that they could have protected themselves. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. But I was very angry, lots of caps locking in my notes about it. So he won't let the boys be part of it and ask them to stop looking for him. And then just says, okay, do what I tell you. And if I were Sam, I understand why he's so frustrated, because it's like, what is he keeping us from? Like, why are we wasting our time with this? Of course, Dean throws down the like ever popular like gotcha phrase, we're saving lives, Sam, and it makes him feel like guilty.
It's one of the things I do like about this early scene is Sam really gets to call out Dean for kind of martyring Mary in
Mm-hmm.
his like hero worship of John. You know, he says, "You were what, 4 when Mary died? Like, what is your investment with this?"
Yeah, just died 6 months ago. He says it really kind of, and it seems kind of harsh, but it's like it's true. Like Dean wants to try to say like, I know how you feel, and Sam's like, do you? Because I understand that you feel the loss of mom. Obviously, it was very traumatic, but I am literally grieving right now.
Right. I love that scene because, it is a really good call out. It's, you're searching kind of casually for revenge for someone that you don't even really remember.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I am actively grieving right now. I should be allowed to want revenge.
Yeah. And he says, this is something I think I got mixed up with in the last one, because we have this conversation about John a lot. But Sam says, I just don't understand your blind faith in the man. And Dean says, well, it's called being a good son. And I just felt like that was like such a, like, that's a really hurtful thing to say. I think in terms of like considering what they're discussing, like they're literally discussing like, I think a reasonable hang up that Sam has about how they're doing these things. Like John says, stay away, I'll deal with it. And Sam's like, no, I want to deal with it because while it might be John's thing because of mom, it is also equally my thing because of Jess.
Right.
And I feel like this doesn't make sense and it's not fair. And Dean is basically telling Sam, well, because you're questioning it, regardless of how valid your point of view is, you're being a bad son and I'm not a bad son like you. And I hate it.
Yep. It's such a thing. Like the last episode, kind of as much as I said it was
Mm-hmm.
it feeds really well into this one and the conflict that they're going to have. Like, I think Dean even calls him a selfish bastard
Yeah, he
for
does.
wanting to save lives or follow John's orders.
Yeah, he says you just want to do whatever you want. And I'm like, yeah, that's what Sam has gotten to do his whole life. Exactly what he
Right.
wants.
Um, and I wrote down um how much I love, well, this selfish bastard is going to California. Like,
Yeah.
you have the little fist pump there. Like, yes, he's gonna do something for himself. He's gonna, stand up to John and Dean. And it's an interesting episode with the two adjacent storylines because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's kind of like, I will leave you in the middle of the street. I do not care. And Sam's like, that's what I want you to do. Like he's got that little like head swivel of that little like little brother, like, do it then. I don't care. So
Go
I
ahead, I dare you. Yeah.
right? Oh, I love obstinate Sam, like, because it's he has that obstinance when he's younger that we lose out on as the series evolves. I think the next thing that I wrote was these old ass flip phones are cracking me up.
That, like the BlackBerry or whatever it was for
Yes,
texting.
yes. So also we get the famous "Dude, you fugly" line from Dean, and he's right.
That,
The
and I hope your apple pie was worth it.
yes, freaking work it. I wrote that. I just love early Dean. Like, there's just so many moments where I'm just like, I just love how
He's
silly
so
and
frustrating, but you can kind of understand where he's coming from because he's been raised to not question things. He's been raised to be a soldier.
yes,
So he's frustrating, but in a way that, I get it.
yes,
I don't
yes.
agree, but I get it.
Yeah. I feel deeply for Dean early on because you can tell that there are moments too where like and we'll get that kind of in the end where he calls him here. I think Dean at one point gets kind of listful thinking about, well, if Sam were here, he'd give you those puppy dog eyes and y'all would want to listen to him, but instead he gets kicked out of the restaurant or whatever. And so they're on the phone and Dean kind of starts the apology. Like he genuinely he begins the, you know what, I don't want you to think, or, I wanted to tell you. And Sam cuts him off because he knows Dean doesn't like to be emotional. And he says, I'm sorry too, man. And I think that's really sweet. And Dean even goes far enough to say, you were right. You've got to do your own thing. You have to live your own life. You've
Yep.
always known what you've wanted. You've always gone after it. You've always stood up to dad. And I wish that and then he kind of moves on and he says, well, anyways, like he won't say it, but you can tell that Dean wishes that he kind of had that independent nature that Sam seems to have been born with to be able to
He
say,
says he says he's proud of him.
yeah, he says, I admire that about you and I'm proud of you, Sammy. And then I wrote, I died in all.
He says such good things about Sam in this conversation. Like,
Yes.
I had forgotten that going into it. Like, it really is a genuinely good sibling conversation.
It's precious. And it flies in the face of a lot of, I think, like fandom lore where they kind of project their interpretation of other things back onto the show and they forget key elements. And this is a moment where Dean makes it very clear that like it's not that he resents that Sam wanted to do those things. It's that he wishes he could have had the courage to also think in terms of his own choices. I think when he watches Sam make his own choices and like fearlessly so, it shakes him because he doesn't have that kind of like personalized identity. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't
he
know who
does.
he
Like,
is.
it's not a thought process that he can have to
Mm-hmm.
be rebellious. Again, he was trained and raised this way like a soldier, and
Yes.
it's just been programmed into him.
Yes, his worth and his identity are all wrapped up in how loyal and obedient can he be to the way of life that John created. And so when he says this stuff to Sam, like, I really admire that about you. I'm so proud that you're this way. And he says, I wish but he cuts himself off. Well, anyways, like you can tell he wishes he could be more like Sam. And I think people need to remember that when they want to say, like, oh my gosh, like Dean did everything for Sam and brought up Sam when he was a child and like I don't know. I feel like people like to like put this kind of like narrative on their dynamic
Mm.
where, Sam was just like had a perfect time and like Dean sacrificed everything for him. And it's like, no, I mean, there was a lot they never even talked about till they were adults. And in this conversation, we see that it wasn't that Dean resents Sam because Sam's not more like him. He resents Sam because he wishes he could be more like Sam.
And I think he even makes another comment, in his sarcastic way. I don't have you and your big brain here or whatever to just know what I'm dealing with.
Right.
He actually has to go and do the research, and it's him acknowledging how much he misses him
Yes.
without saying it outright. And again, I love that it's such a sibling conversation. Dean obviously not wanting to say the words, I'm sorry, but it's there.
Yeah. And Sam like picking up on that enough to say, I'm sorry too. Like not making him forcing him to have to say it. Like
It's some of that payoff that we didn't get in Asylum.
Yes, it's that intuition. And I needed that from them, the two of them, because the end of Asylum really upset me. I didn't like how we left things.
Yeah, this one's definitely, I don't want to say healing, but it gets us back to their version of a healthier dynamic.
Yes, because it's gonna be not very healthy majority of the time. So we can get back on track a little bit for a little while. Got to really soak it in.
Enjoy this bit of normalcy while we can.
Yeah, seriously. The boys reunite at the end. And I think Sam even says he was like, like dad's not here, mom's gone, Jess is gone. It's just you and me, and we're all that's left. So let's do this together. And I think that's a really sweet way for him to assure Dean to like, I want to be here now too. Like, because I do think for a while Dean was insecure because he took him away from Stanford. And I think for a while, Sam's head was at Stanford and like in his past. And now this was a moment as we enter the center of the season. This is the dead center of the season. Sam is finally like, no, I'm here with you and I want to be here with you. And we're in this together.
Yeah, I feel like we get back onto some solid ground, and Sam finally kind of figures out what his goal is.
Yeah.
Um, Again, especially after they left us hanging with Asylum. We get that balance back, and now Sam has a goal in mind. And we know that that goal is finally a demon,
Yeah.
because that's a big thing in these early seasons. They don't just pop up all the time.
So normalized that early on when I started rewatching the series, I think a few years ago with Corey, and I was dumbfounded by how they couldn't recognize a demon by his eyes. I was like, are y'all okay? So when John tries to say he did his best, it ain't true. Uh,
We
these
don't even
boys
know that those exist.
thing. Okay, let's do our judgments, our ratings. So for this episode, wardrobe, what do we think?
Okay, so this episode started with the purple dog shirt.
Yes.
Again, we have to give it credit for that. And then the other two that I really noticed, there is one about halfway through for Sam. There's this really terrible, like, polo over a long sleeve shirt.
Oh my
This
God.
is so, again, like mid-aughts. It's so bad
Yeah.
to be almost unforgivable. Like flashbacks to high school or something. I hate it.
Yeah.
But then the last one, he has this really soft looking green sweater on that I just
Yeah.
kind of adore. So I gave this one an adorable
Yeah.
because the two kind of make that polo and long sleeve shirt combo forgivable.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can't forget we had the little purple dog shirt at the beginning too. So like it balances out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do our well, I almost didn't give mine because you said mine. I gave it adorable too. But Sam girl friendly scale. I did enjoy this one more. So let's start with screen
Yeah.
time. What did you think of the screen time for this one?
The screen time, this is a hard one because again, they're doing the two parallel storylines. He isn't in it for all of the episode, but the stuff that he gets is so good.
Yeah.
Um, he has the early confrontation with John and then Dean.
Hmm.
We get the scenes with Meg, and then we get the forgiveness scene and him actually kind of getting to save the day.
Yep.
So I gave it like a 3.5, 3.75 because he's not in it for half of it, but the stuff that he gets is so good.
It is so good. I'm with you. I gave it a 4. So like right around the same
Yeah.
arena for sure. Okay, so enjoyment for Sam girls.
This, I gave it a 4 to like a 4.25 because again, we get to see him stand up for himself. We get to see him interacting with people outside of Dean and the hunting mission.
Yes.
And again, that save the day thing, always gotta love.
Yeah, we love that. And I loved seeing him kind of off on his own, getting to be kind of not flirtatious, but just like charismatic without like the shadow of Dean's charisma. Because their charisma is they both have charisma, but it's very different. And I feel like Dean's sometimes overshadows Sam's because Sam is so like introverted as a character. And so he's very subtle, while Dean is very like heavy-handed. And so it's fun to get to watch him interact with a character that where no one else was there. Like it was just him and Meg, and you got to see him kind of be himself outside of that dynamic.
Right. He gets to be like kind of sassy and sarcastic in a
Yeah.
way that is so different from Dean, but is so enjoyable to see.
Yeah. I gave it a 4.6 for the Joy one. I really enjoyed that episode.
I'm I'm mean with my grading again.
No, I love it. Like, I think it's really because I'll have a conversation and I'll talk through what I thought, and then Elle will want to change hers. And I'm like, no, stand on it, 10 toes down on it. So I love that you're like, this is how I feel. Also, you're way more science brained than we are. So I feel like I like that your numbers are more strategic. Okay, last one, Hard Eyes.
I gave it a 4.
Mhm.
It I don't know, he was just so soft in some of these scenes. I don't know if the outfits are kind of, swaying me here, but we get the comment about the puppy dog eyes. We get the really good sweater. We get the purple dog shirt. Him getting to be off on his own, do his own thing, be sassy,
Mhm.
then come back in time to save Dean.
I gave it a 4.5 with Hard Eyes. I think just getting to see him with Meg made me really happy because
Yeah.
and like yeah, swinging in to save the day. So overall, I rated it a 4.3. You rated it a even 4.
Yes.
And so we've got these two rated. The average is we got for Asylum 3.05 and for Scarecrow 4.15. That's not bad.
That's
So
not bad.
the lowest rated episode so far is Hookman.
Really, I thought it would have been Bugs.
We love Bugs. Bugs was like a 4.11, girl. We love Bugs.
I don't hate Bugs. I mean,
That's what we discussed. We were like, people hate Bugs, but we think they're wrong. And then we talked for like an hour and
not
a half
that
about
bad
it.
an episode.
It's a good one.
Okay. But now I think maybe I have to go back and watch Hookman at some point just to figure out what it is.
It was like basically slut shaming the TV show. Like it was like that was the plot. It was like a pastor's daughter who had all of this like internalized misogyny, just like who couldn't help but just have people murdered around her for weird biblical sins. It was just we hated it. Every single moment was bad.
I said this to you before. I think I have to have Sean come in and watch these with me because
Please.
he has never seen it.
Oh my God,
Like
I'd love to have like a totally random like Sean opinion.
I'll have to see if he's willing to like come on and talk to you or something because he would be so funny to talk to. He he has no clue about any of it. I told him how many seasons it was and he was mind blown.
I know it's so long. No, I would love that. That would be hilarious.
Like I don't know how he deals with the fact that I was the crazy person who's like doing all the conventions, meeting them, like blogging it all.
Yeah,
And
we went to a convention and met up.
yeah, that was an experience. Oh my God.
We'll get into that more later. Fandom stuff is wild, y'all. It's wild. All right, I'm going to let you go. I'm so grateful that you came on and did this with me today.
Thank you so much.
It was so
Bye.
much fun.